Morning everyone, and welcome to my BCM 216 story proposal. In this video I will address what my Transmedia story narrative is about and its core themes. I'll suggest ways in which my project can be collectively worked on in a group setting. I'll address my prior research that I've done and what that research has brought to light of any previous stories or any other concepts that support these themes that I'm going to be talking about. And I'll also explain the different mediums that my story can be expanded to effectively, as it is a transmedia story.
Story is a classic hero's journey. The young protagonist Nathan Brooks and his family make the dangerous voyage to Mars as Earth becomes too polluted to live on. Nathan's parents unfortunately die on the way to Mars from an illness which takes over the ship. As they land, Nathan is all alone, and the journey that he goes on in the new story world and the new characters he meets are all part of his own development to find himself and his reason for life. As he continues to live on, he starts to question why he's there and tries to find answers and find meaning in this brand new story world.
There are two main characters in this story, Nathan Brooks, who I've mentioned, and Sabrina Perez, who he meets as he journeys through Colony 56 on Mars. Sabrina is going to play a very vital role in both Nathan's development and the development of the story as he starts to find someone to trust again. Colony 56 and Mars is going to be the story world and is going to play a vital role in the character development and the development of the story as a whole. As the colony is brand new, it is going to develop its own almost personality, as there's no one been inhabited there before, and there's many unknowns for the characters to explore, like looking for water and sources to live, and even potentially sources of life that have never been found before. Themes which this entire story is going to be based around are going to be threefold. There's going to be trust, there's going to be loneliness, and there's going to be the want to find something which is more than just what you think life has given you.
So what prior research have I already done?
There are two things I'm going to talk about. The first is the transmedia example, which I've taken creative liberties from. And the second is a really good core structure or core ideal, which I'm going to be using throughout the entire story, which is going to give it a really strong base. Firstly, the example. The example I'm going to use is one of the largest transmedia universes that's ever existed. This is the Star Wars universe. The Star Wars universe has stretched across TV shows, movies, video games, and books. And I think that the core themes which Star Wars values really relate well to my story. We have the orphaned hero who goes on a journey to find himself, similar to what Nathan Brooks is going to do in my entire story. The second is the setting, a space setting which gives the story world this almost unlimited potential as space is infinite. I'm going to really read into that. And also the whole unknown aspect which Star Wars goes on. Mars is a planet which has not been explored that heavily and still has many unanswered questions, which leaves many mystery boxes scattered throughout my universe and which gives way for potential sequels, prequels, and even a chance for the audience to engage and react in their own way and create their own storylines around these characters. Secondly is this concept. This concept is called the orphan trope, and we see it in many different stories, like Star Wars, I said before, the Harry Potter universe, Pirates of the Caribbean. All of these kind of big cinematic and big transmedia stories all use this orphan trope concept. Pretty much what it does is it leaves mystery boxes, like I stated before, scattered throughout the universe, which gives way for prequel, sequels, and audience engagement. And this is a really important thing that I'm going to hopefully add to my story and keep a lot of mystery surrounding Nathan and the entire way his parents died and why they died and why he's reacting this way.
Now I need to think about if my project can work in a group setting effectively.
There is one very good reason why I think this project could work really well in a group setting. My project has many unanswered questions, and as I've stated many times before in this pitch, many mystery boxes which could be addressed. The group setting will provide almost like a focus group which will enable this story to move forward with many different inputs and many different ideas. As I stated, Mars is a relatively unexplored planet with many unanswered questions, and this story is really going to tap into that ideology and the input from group members to say, Maybe Nathan could go down this story path. Or what if this happened to our story world? And what if the story world dictated this to happen to Nathan? And these kind of inputs from group members will really make sure that the story moves forward at a really relatively good pace and in an engaging way.
Now we need to ask the very important transmedia question, what mediums can this project extend to?
When the discussion of the different kinds of mediums comes up for this project, I'm going to start to relate it back to the Star Wars example again. In Star Wars, there have been over 140 different kinds of video games, 9 movies in the main franchise, and many different kinds of TV show spin-offs, including cartoon ones like the Clone Wars. The first medium which my project will take is in book form. It'll be chapter by chapter, released at least weekly if we go through with it. The chapters will be all about how Nathan reacts and how Nathan goes through his journey weekly on Mars. I feel like because of the space setting, as it is a very popular medium for video games, there could be a choose-your-own-adventure style video game to go along with this story. I think that it also really translate well into a weekly TV show, as again the space setting and the narrative would really speak to much of the population, as it's quite a popular genre. Add that I want to write this story in such a way that the characters in the story world can be described and translated through audiobook form. Recent research has shown that over half of all Americans use and love audiobooks, and that's where they get most of their reading from. So I really hope that I can make sure these stories translated well and so it can reach a much wider audience and get more engagement. Related back to mystery boxes, which have been brought up many times throughout this entire presentation. What the mystery boxes are going to really do, and be really important to the mediums, is make sure that there are different kinds of prequels and sequels and different avenues in which different mediums can be created. So for example, the video games might not focus so much on Nathan being an orphan, but more Nathan being an adventurer in a brand new story world, which has been really relatively unexplored. Different prequels and sequels could talk more about Nathan's parents' lives or why they died, or even the main protagonist and any characters he meets along the way exploring Mars. These mystery boxes are critical to many transmedia examples as they open up brand new pathways for people to explore. What I'm going to do now is quickly read you the first part of chapter 1 of the story, which is now going to be called Colony 56. This is a very quick proof of concept. Chapter 1. The dust storms on Mars are intense, and Nathan Brooks was sitting amongst the radiation in an expensive spacesuit that his dad had spent much of his life savings on, so his family could have a better life. What a waste of money, old man, the 16-year-old muttered under his breath. He could hear the faint sound of the warning alarm wailing in the distance, warning the entire population of the impending dust storm that was barreling over the barren desert. Nathan! A voice came echoing through his microphone in his suit as Nathan sat next to the 10-ton solid metal airlock door that sealed Colony 56 from the harsh, vastly uninhabitable wasteland that was Mars. Get your ass in here, boy, before I have to drag it in here myself. Father Michael was a more unconventional priest that had preferred methods of delivering his service and life advice. One of these methods was telling someone they were an idiot if they were about to do something idiotic. Quite a straightforward way of doing it. Nathan ignored the father's first request as he contemplated shutting the airlock door and jumping into the storm. The second and much more expletive-based shout finally stirred him, and he begrudgingly made his way back inside and was met by the glare of the priest. Pretty much the closest thing Nathan had to family, but he'd never admit that. Do I need to tie you to a pole like a dog? Said Father Michael, putting his hand on Nathan's shoulder in a weak show of support. Nathan brushed his hand off his shoulder and looked at the father dead in the eyes. I don't care what you do. Nothing to live for, anyway. Father Michael watched helplessly as the troubled teenager walked away into the tunnel that led down to the first colony on Mars, deep underground, away from the elements. An achievement that should be celebrated, but in the months they'd been there, the grandeur of it had seemed to go over the teenager's head. I guess that's what happens when you're all alone, thought the priest. I miss his parents as much as he does, but no amount of sulking is going to bring James and Sarah back.